The Baggies Podcast, giving you the latest news, views and opinions on all things Albion. Now available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Hello and welcome to the Baggies Podcast. Now you may be thinking, Louis, well, I don't know when you'll be listening to this, but it's Wednesday night. What are you doing? Recording a podcast. And that is because this is a bonus episode. Not a bonus episode that I planned on making, not one that I had, in the works because we've got a double game week or anything like that. It's because it's time to say goodbye to Slaven Bilic. Slaven Bilic has been sacked as West Bromwich Albion this lunchtime, and Big Sam Allardyce has come into the club this evening. So we're going to be going through all that, hearing your thoughts. We've got a couple of fan contributions coming in later on in the episode. We're going to be going through that, picking apart the sacking of Slaven Bilic and the appointment of Big Sam Allardyce in this episode. If you're new to the podcast, make sure you stay tuned and make sure you're following us on Twitter at the Baggies Pod. But without further ado, let's get into this bonus episode. It's episode 23 of the Baggies Podcast.
The Baggies Podcast, giving you the latest news, views and opinions on all things Albion. Now available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
So, as mentioned in the introduction of this bonus episode of the Baggies Podcast, Slaven Bilic, Slav, has been sacked by West Bromwich Albion. Not resigned, not, left on his own terms, sacked from West Bromwich Albion. Words can't describe how disappointed I am with the sacking of our manager. Results haven't gone our way this season. Results haven't gone in any way, shape or form our way in many of the games this season. You can see that by the league table. 8 games lost out of 13, a 1 win, 4 draws, 7 points from 13 games. It's an appalling record. You have to say, it is a terrible record this season. Our worst start to a season since, I think it was something like the 80s or something like that. It's a pretty bad record for the Albion to hold. But yeah, there's plenty of talking points to go through, and we're going to go through them. We've got some fan reaction, we've got some voice clips sent in by the fans of West Bromwich Albion over the past few hours. They've been sending in their voice clips, hopefully getting their opinions across and getting what they think about this sacking and the appointment, as I said, of Big Sam Allardyce to the Hawthorns. Been signed on an 18-month deal. Allardyce has. So yeah, you've also been voting on Twitter as well, as far as I'm aware, of who you think, what you think of the sacking, what you think of the appointment, and so I hope to see your reaction to those in a bit. So we'll go from last night, because we haven't spoke, I guess, me and you the listener, since before the Man City game. So we'll talk about the Man City game, I suppose. Let's start with that. So Man City, we played Man City on Tuesday evening in a 1-1 draw, a game in which we were expected to lose. God knows how many, 5-6-0. We all had that in our mind. We all had that, thinking, what's going to happen here? So yeah, we went out and we drew 1-1 with them. An impressive result on the face of things. You look at that result and you think, wow, fair play West Brom, getting a point out of Man City. Even if you don't go into how the game went, but I'll tell you how the game went anyway. Obviously it started as you meant to go on. Throughout the game, City claimed 77% of the ball, West Brom with 23% of the ball. 26 shots, 21 chances created for City, and 4 big chances. We had 5 shots and 2 chances created. And as the play is going to always swing in the domination of Man City. There's no way of getting away from that. There's no way of escaping that. You knew that Man City were going to have the majority of the ball. But what you didn't think is that West Brom, when they went forward, they might be able to get a goal. Or they might be able to, just etch out a draw, which is what we did, essentially. After 30 minutes, pretty good goal from City. Sterling cuts it back to Ilkay Gundogan, who finishes quite neatly into the roof of the net, I'll say. And he scored that goal for them after 30 minutes. And then the heads, we started to think, yes, it's what City do. We played really well for 30 minutes. Actually, I haven't been through it, but the biggest chance of the game actually came before that, and that was Karlan Grant's huge chance after, I think it must have been so early, I think it was about 8 minutes in. Karlan Grant, the ball flicked off Cancelo's foot and into the path of Grant, and he sidestepped Ake and then just sort of tamely passed it back to the goalkeeper, and I thought it was actually quite similar to his chance against Brighton, which he scored, and he put Webster on his backside and then just flung it into the roof of the net. I thought, he's going to do this again, isn't he? And then just this tame pass back to the keeper. Yeah, as I said before the game, if you follow me on Twitter, which I think you should, at the Baggies Pod, I said Grant and Diangana needed a big game. I thought Diangana had a decent game myself, but I think Grant was pretty poor. Lots of poor touches, lots of losing the ball needlessly. Not a great out ball in a game like that, which I think is something that Charlie Austin improved when he came on. But after 43 minutes, we saw him in a free kick. It was controlled, I think, in a way by Semi Ajayi, who sent it towards the goal. He just has a little sort of he turns and flicks it towards the goal, and it. Diaz is like moving towards it, and it just hits him, and it goes under Edison, and it was it did go down as a Diaz own goal. I thought it would be Semi Ajayi's first Premier League goal, but no, it wrong-footed Edison really, and went into the goal. And yeah, fantastic. 1-1 at half time. Probably don't deserve to be at 1-1. We worked really hard in the first half, and indeed throughout the game, to keep the City team at bay. That's the first game that City have conceded in 608 minutes of football, and that's equates to 10 hours or something like that. So yeah, it was a wonder how City would respond to that sort of equaliser and how we'd get going after that. But yeah, we did quite a lot of things right in that game, and Sam Johnston making some exceptional save. My man of the match, as always, Sam Johnston. You might as well stop the Player of the Season votes. Stop them now. Stop the count. Because he did such a fantastic job to keep us in the game, chance after chance after chance, especially in those late minutes. I think it was from about 90 minutes, as soon as added time, I think he must have made 3 game-saving saves, and all of them should have been goals, really. But yeah, we managed to get a win, managed to be competitive in this game, tackling all over the pitch, making everything hard for City. They just couldn't get through in the end and couldn't break down the brick wall of Sam Johnston, and that's why they drew the game. So obviously before this game we were thinking, after the Newcastle game, you think that might be Slaven gone, and you're thinking, oh dear, that's probably going to be him at the club, that's probably going to be that. And then you got to the Man City game and you think, are we going to, is he going to still be in charge? But turns out they made that decision long before the Man City game, possibly even after the Crystal Palace game. They made the decision that Slaven Bilic. Well, I'd say let's not the scapegoat the people. Let's name and shame. I'll probably put this in the. Apparently, Luke Dowling, footballing director, said that he wanted to keep Slaven at the club and discourage the owners, but the owners wanted him gone. The board wanted him gone, and nobody could say anything otherwise to keep him in the path of West Bromwich Albion, to keep Slaven Bilic, staying at the Albion. So he was sacked after the Man City this morning. I'd say I think it was about 12 o'clock or something like that. I wasn't quite. I was quite shocked to see it. I woke up this morning actually to talk sport, and they said that they were planning on having Sam Allardyce in the afternoon show, and I heard on the radio Sam Allardyce won't be, he's cancelled his appearance on TalkSport, and I thought that's a bit strange. And then it started to make sense in my head, and then the news headlines started coming through, and Slaven Bilic looks still to be losing his job, and he hadn't quite been sacked then, and I thought, I know exactly what's going to happen here. Slaven's going to go, and Sam's going to come in, because it's all too sketchy that he's cut out that call, he's cut out that interview on TalkSport. But yeah, it's about 12 o'clock. Slaven Bilic was sacked, along with his coaching staff, including Dejan Rakunica, Danilo Butarovic, and first team coach Julian Dix, all left the club. So the club said West Bromwich Albion have today parted company with head coach Slaven Bilic, assistant coaches Dejan Rakunica and Danilo Butarovic, and first team coach Julian Dix will have also left the club with immediate effect. The Baggies are currently 19th in the Premier League table with 7 points from 13 fixtures. Albion would like to thank Slaven and his coaching staff for their efforts in achieving the promotion last season and wish them all merit in the future. The club will make no further comment at this time. So that was at 12 o'clock today. And yeah, it's a disgrace. Come on, let's be real. Even if you're Slaven out, I've seen lots of Slaven Bilic people that slamming out people, I'll call them. Slexit people, I suppose. No, I'm sorry, that's awful. But yeah, we've had plenty of them on Twitter, and even they've come out and said the manner in which the club have handled this issue is just out of order. How can you sack a man who, knowing probably, he knew, I bet they've told him this is your last game in charge before the Man City game, or they haven't. They like to do things behind his back, and I'm sure he knows that. But yeah, a man who knows he's going to be sacked, gave all that energy and that positivity last night to get us a point on the board. His final point, even if he didn't know, I think he knew what was coming. I think we knew what was coming after the game. It came out almost certainly straight after the game, and then he's been, everyone was saying he's going to get sacked. That's that, and he still went out there and put in, and the players were playing for him. You could see that in their hearts and that you see in their eyes, they were determined to get a point against City, and they left absolutely everything on that pitch yesterday. And it's just remarkable how the board can. Well, I wouldn't say they've watched the performance. I wouldn't say they've even seen it. I mean, that might be one of the games that they might like to have a little flurry from China to come and watch it. But yeah, obviously that's probably not been something that they've seen or something that they've watched. But surely if you watch that game, and even Bilic out, people could see that they were playing for that man. They were playing for the manager. Even I probably thought the players knew that. Probably players didn't know that it was his last game, but Slaven probably did. He probably knew it in his heart that this was going to be the end, even if they might have even explicitly told him that. So he's probably come out and thought, I'm going to give it a good go today with everybody in the game. I'm going to get everybody together, and we're going to play for the last time together as one, which is fantastic. And I think that probably tells you enough that Slaven Bilic was the right man to stay on at West Brom. Yeah, results have been poor. Yeah, we haven't won many games since something like March or February, but he's clearly got the players playing for him. If you can draw against one of the best teams in the world, where I think Riyad Mahrez is worth more than our entire team put together, surely Slaven Bilic deserves to stay at the club. I understand after the Palace game, if he's gone after that, I say fair enough. That was a dreadful performance. Looked like he couldn't, he couldn't organise anything whatsoever. He couldn't organise a piss up in a brewery, really. It looked that way against Crystal Palace, and you'd say fair enough. Fair enough if you're going to sack him after that. It's fair. It's a 5-1 defeat to a team that you perhaps should be beating, and you say fair enough. Sack him after that. That's fine. Maybe Newcastle, you could argue. If it's not going to be Palace, we did lose there again, and we thought that was going to be his last chance saloon. Fair enough that our performance was particularly unlucky, but Bilic, he deserved to, he perhaps deserved to keep his job after that. But the fact that he probably already made that decision, no matter what happens against City. I mean, you saw what happened after the final whistle. Everyone was rejoiced. The West Brom players, they collapsed to their knees. It was like we'd won a cup final. You could see how hard they'd worked, and you could see how much effort they'd put in. And Bilic was all behind that. And the fact that the owners just don't have a clue, I think they need to look at themselves and go, who's the problem here? It's not Slaven. It's not any manager that we put in charge. It's not going to be Big Sam's fault if we go down this season. It's us. The only way you can stay up, you've got the best manager there that you probably could have. If you stay up this season and you build with that man in charge of your football team, you're going to stay up for many seasons. You could probably even progress to European football. There's a chance that you could even, you could profess to European football after a few seasons. Look what Villa are doing. They've stayed up. They've kept the man who they nearly sacked last season. I hate to use Villa as an example, but it's just the way it's got to be today. They've used Dean Smith, who they nearly sacked last season after some poor run of games. Looked like they were down and out. Yeah, fair enough, they got a bit lucky with their staying up. But Dean Smith, they kept him on. They kept him in charge, and now look at them. They're sitting here happy in 11th. They were. I'm fairly sure they were top of the league or second or something like that. Villa at some point this season, beating teams like Arsenal, beating Liverpool 7-2. They've stuck with him. They've stuck with Dean Smith. Fair enough, they gave him too much money last season. That's not the money we expect from any owner really at West Bromwich Albion. But they gave him the money last season. He stayed up. They've given him more money this season. He's built on the squad more, and he's come. He's got a really good striker in there, and Ollie Watkins. One that we were after potentially as well. Got a good loan signing. Fair enough, there's a 10 million price tag with it with Bartley, but he's improved the squad. He got a decent goalkeeper in Emiliano Martinez, and they're building on it, and they're going into a strong mid-table position. Don't look like they're going to be in much danger this year. So, in my eyes, Villa have done the right thing by sticking by Dean Smith, and I think that's what we should have done. You stick with the manager. He keeps you up because you can see they're still playing for you. I mean, fair enough. Relegation is less certain now. Now we've got Big Sam in charge. That's certain with a man like Big Sam. It wasn't quite certain with Slaven Bilic, but he stayed. If he'd have stayed, you could, and you play like that every week. But the performances over the season perhaps haven't been good enough, and I can understand if you sacked him after the Fulham game even. But the fact that the timing of that is just right out of order. That's just what doesn't sit right with me. Is that you sent him out there, you sent the poor man out there to get you a result in a game that you shouldn't really get a result. He's got you a result, and you thank him with booting him out the club along with his assistant and his assistant coaches and his first team coach. Just doesn't sit right with me. That's my thoughts on Slaven Bilic. We'll hear what you guys think about that at the end of the episode. But let's go on to talk about Big Sam's appointment here at the Hawthorns. And the fact that Slaven Bilic was obviously performing with, can you hand on heart say that there are more than 3 or 4 Premiership players in this West? I could probably say Pereira is Premiership, Johnston, Ajayi. I think that'd probably be that. Dean Garner probably will be a Premiership player once he finds his feet, but certainly not at the moment. But let's move on to talk about Big Sam, not Slav. Sorry, Slav. It's all over for you, unfortunately, mate. It's time to talk about Big Sam. The man, we all know who he is. We all know who it is. He's one of the big names in English football. Proven Premier League survivor. That's all I can say about. That's probably the best statement to describe him. So Big Sam, not Slav. I'm going to have to stop that. So Big Sam. Let's talk about his mid-season impact, because he's coming in at West Brom in a mid-season sort of manner. So his first job really as a mid-season sort of coming in and saving the day. He was 19th with Blackburn on his arrival in 2008-09. He ended the season in 15th. Sunderland in 2015-16 on arrival, they were 19th, and he finished 17th with them, again keeping the team up. Crystal Palace in 16-17, 17th place, and came up to 14th. Then Everton on arrival were in 13th, so not really above the drop zone, but finished 8th in the end. So there we are. Big Sam, not Slav, Big Sam. Clearly keeping teams in the division. It's pretty obvious that teams are being kept in the division by Big Sam. He's never been relegated as a manager, so obviously looks to be that, even if I am in vain about Slaven Bilic's sacking, and I really am, I can tell you now, I don't want him to be sacked. I didn't want him to be sacked, but however, I do have to concede defeat and say that Big Sam is probably the best bet at keeping us in the division. The only compromise you get with Big Sam is the fact that it's on a sort of, you watch tripe football, you watch this brand of football which isn't particularly attractive. I'd say it's a little bit better than Pulis from fans of other clubs who've had Big Sam. So, for example, Crystal Palace. Fans have had both Pulis and Allardyce. So the fact that they've been saying, look, Pulis is the worst. Big Sam's a bit better because he will go forward with you, as he did at Everton in that something like 17-18 season. He worked quite well there, and he did go forward with the team. He made them pretty decent, into a decent side. They just wanted a more attractive brand of football. So that's the only compromise, really. You're going to have to sacrifice some nice football for the manager. In order to stay in the division. My plan would hopefully be, and now this is a dream, just hear me out here. Big Sam comes in for this season. I mean, he's on an 18-month deal, so that's just a year and a half, really. But he comes in on this 18-month deal. He keeps up. We might have to sack him, and then we bring in somebody like Rafa Benitez. Or you bring in Slaven Bilic, is the sort of person that you want. But the only thing I have to say is the cheek of West Bromwich Albion for emailing me, saying at 5:10 today, saying, new manager alert with Dudley Ball manager with Big Sam. get your tickets and your match tickets and shop and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch that brand of football. I'd love to watch the results afterwards, but I don't want to watch it. I will watch it because I've got to do this podcast about it. But I don't particularly want to watch that brand of football. That's all I'm saying. But he's a proven Premier League survivor. Would I have chosen him if Slaven Bilic had to go? I probably would have, just because of the available managers out there and ones that I think that are going to keep us in the league. However, am I going to think about this appointment and go, wow, that's a real step in the right direction. It is a step towards Premier League survival, but I can't say it's a step towards anything like positive football or moving anywhere as a club. That's all I can say. So yeah, unfortunately I am a bit annoyed about it, but you just got to move on. You've just got to get on with it. Got to back Big Sam, I'm afraid. It's not his fault that Slaven Bilic has been sacked, but he's just got to go out there and do the best job that he can, and I'm sure that he will. I'm positive that he'll get the results that we need to keep us in the division. Just got to stick with Big Sam and keep with him. But I'm so thankful to Slaven Bilic. I must place on record what a fantastic job he's done, and I'm so pleased with what the sort of job he's done at West Brom and how he's managed to be the guy that has made us fall back in love with the football club. I must place that on record of how fantastic he's been. But yeah, it's time to get behind Big Sam. It's time to get behind, and it's time to go again at Villa on Sunday. I didn't want to have to make an extra podcast. I mean, I wanted to, but I felt like it was such a big thing to ignore. If that was the, if we were just ignoring that, if we were just ignoring the issue. However, it's time to get behind Big Sam. And now it's time to see what you guys have thought, because let's have a look at what you guys have been thinking on Twitter to reveal the votes from the poll. So the first poll was, what do you think about Slaven Bilic's sacking? And this is the first of the two polls. Number 1 says, right and justified, and that was 12%. The second option was not the right choice, and that's 88%. So that's pretty overwhelming that people don't want Slaven to leave. And the other one, what do you think about Big Sam's appointment? 46% say spot on, 54% absolutely not right. I'd have to disagree with the second poll. The first poll, Slaven Bilic never should be sacked in the first place, and I think people are just a bit annoyed that I feel like I've got over him too soon. But it was time to go a few matches ago for Slaven Bilic. It wasn't time to go for him after that game last night, and the timing of it is absolutely horrific. And for the board to sack him after that, it angers me. But we've got to get behind Big Sam. He's the right choice at the moment, I think. I think he's just going to have to be the choice for now to keep us in the division. But we seem to have gone backwards with that appointment. It seems like you're asking for Pulis back, when really he's the last person we want. But let's hear what you guys have thought, because we've got a fan reaction coming on now, and this is from our friend on Twitter, and who's emailed in with a voice clip. So let's see what CJ Reynolds thinks of the appointment of Big Sam and the sacking of Slaven Bilic. Take it away.
So a few thoughts on the Bilic sacking. I am a little bit surprised on the timing, but I'm not shocked by the decision. We have played well in games Spurs, United, Chelsea in periods. We've also been awful for large parts of some games. Fulham away, Southampton, first half against Newcastle. So if you're going to stay up, you can't keep playing poorly week in, week out, or on and off a week. I think you need some consistency. Defensively, we're going to have to shore up. They're very good against Man City, but it's just one game. It could be awful again against Villa. So I don't know really. We need some investment in January, and also it'll be a firefighting manager that comes in. It'll be a Pearson or an Allardyce, that type, I would have thought, just to try and keep the team in the league. Without investment, that's going to be very, very tough. I'd be surprised if they could get to 25, 30 points. I think the total needed to stay up will probably be lower this year. Across the course of last season, I thought Bilic again, he was brought some enjoyment back to watching the club after the horror shows under Pulis and his anti-football. We'll probably go back to a bit more long ball defensive, just to try and stay in the league. I would have thought whoever comes in for the manager's role. At some points during last season, I did question some of the substitutions and the lineups. Currently, I can't personally see some of the guys that are getting starting places. I don't think it's warranted. Just my view, just my personal view. But yeah, whoever comes in, it's going to need investment in January, and probably a change in ethos in terms of our style will have to be harder to beat. But we'll wait and see what happens.
So thank you to CJ for getting involved and sending your thoughts in about Sam Allardyce and the sacking of Slaven Bilic. That brings us to the end of this podcast, this bonus episode of the Baggies Podcast. Thank you very much for joining me on this midweek episode, and hopefully I'll see you after the Villa game on Sunday, and I'll be able to share my thoughts with you for Monday's podcast. So let's see how Big Sam gets on in his first game. Let's back him. Let's get behind him. Let's put the sacking of Slaven Bilic behind us. I mean, it's so upsetting, but we're gonna have to just move on with it, and we'll see what happens. It's a disgraceful way in which it's been dealt with, and the disgraceful way in which it's happened. But we've got to back Big Sam, and we've got to get out there and put in a good performance against the Villa on Sunday. So without further ado, brings us to the end of the podcast. My name's been Louis, and thank you very much for listening. Follow us on Twitter at the Baggies Pod, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.
The Baggies Podcast, giving you the latest news, views and opinions on all things Albion. Now available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts and Spotify.